Good. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This is awesome, and welcome. We've been doing these for about 5-6 months now, and it's just great to connect. And Ken and I were chatting about this earlier. And we realised, well, it's called Coffee and Conversation, but actually it's a little bit of community mentorship. It was like, oh my gosh, we're actually helping the community by doing this. So this is good. So my name is Sarah. I work in the external relations team. There's a few of us around. If you're a big brothers, big sisters person, stick your hand up. Okay.
You wore your name tag.
I did. Do you want to just quickly introduce yourselves to people?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Ken Lima Coelho. Privileged to lead the team here at Big Brothers Big Sisters. And in other words, what I was saying, I just do what I'm told, which is absolutely perfect. So, welcome.
Perfect.
And my name is Steven. I'm a communications specialist here. I've been here about close to 2 years now, and I'm one of the people that tells Ken what to do.
Yes, he is. And Steven, you're here because you have a what age?
She's in grade 1, and she's learning to read right now.
Okay.
So we're really working on it every night.
Yeah.
Working on her bubblegum words, she calls them, because they stick to your brain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's doing good. She's doing really good, but she had a hard week this week, a challenging week of learning to read and write. So really excited about this event today.
Yeah, this is cool. I have 3 grown-up boys now. They're 27, 28, 29. And it's joy, because now I can give them a book at Christmas and not get frowned on. Whereas Dan gave your little a book for Christmas and didn't get a great response initially.
The expected response.
The expected response. So this is awesome. So thank you for joining us. This is Nada, who is, she's going to kill me when I say this, but she's a bit of an expert on literacy, which is why she is here.
She is. This is true.
Yeah, she is the person. So anyway, I will do a little bit of housekeeping and then we'll jump into some stuff. So hopefully when you were brought in, you were shown where the washrooms were around the back. So if you do need the washroom during this, just through the corridor there, turn right and they're around there. If the fire alarms go off, follow one of us. We will not scream and run, but we will exit the building quite quickly. So that's really kind of where we need to go. And then let's just jump in, if that's okay. Did you want to explain a little bit about what you do, who you are?
Sure.
That would be great.
Okay, so I don't see myself as an expert, but I'm hoping that I will trigger your curiosity about reading, and that we can answer some questions that you may have together. My name is Nada. I will not share my last name because it's hard to pronounce, and you'll forget it. I work at CanLearn Society for a long time, for more than 20 years now. And I manage our literacy programs, and those include programs for children, for families, and for adults. So I am passionate about literacy in a broad sense, not exclusively about early literacy or adult literacy. And well, I like to think that I'm curious myself. So over the years, I have been building my knowledge through some formal training that is aligned with the science of reading approach to reading instruction, and more importantly, through working with different children and families and adults.
Perfect.
That's
you.
me.
Okay. So I wanted to also chat a little bit about literacy, because here at Big Brothers Big Sisters we have a program called We Read, and we also inherited that from Calvary Reads, which some of you may have heard of, which is an organisation that focused on literacy in Calvary for many years. It's really important for us because we're all about igniting potential and helping children and youth reach their goals, and literacy is one of the ways they do it, right? And we all know this inherently, but it's how do we actually make that happen in real life, day to day. I'll share a scary statistic. which I sort of love and hate sharing too, but we have quite close partnership or working relationship with Big Brothers Big Sisters in America, and their president and CEO was up here a couple of years ago and chatting with us, and a very scary statistic is down there south of the border. They determine the jail cells they're going to need in 10 years time by the grade 3 literacy rate. So there's that much tie-in between literacy and success in life that's how they determine what they're going to need. Now, south of the border, that's all I'm going to say. We're not going to get political. But there is definitely a correlation. So that's why literacy is really important to us at Big Brothers Big Sisters. And so having We Read, which is a program that helps share the love of literacy and reading, is something that we're building into all of our mentorship programs, right? So with that, I've got a few questions that I'm going to ask Nada, and then we're going to open it for everybody else too as well. So following on from what I just said, can you help us understand why early literacy is so important, and what does early mean?
That's a really good question. Well, early literacy is foundation for all other stages in literacy development. So I will ask a question back to the audience. Could you take 30 seconds and think about what your life would be like now if you had never learned to read? And if you spend some time reflecting on that, you would come up with things, oh, I would probably not have a job. I would not be able to read instructions for my medication. I would not be able to cook a new recipe, things like that. So these are some unfortunate and devastating outcomes for adults who struggle with reading. And when you think about it, just yesterday, all those adults were children. So that's why early literacy is important. And the question, what is early? Well, nothing is early because it all starts at birth. So if you look at this little postcard, and that will become the most important handout in your life that you have ever received. Literacy starts with language. And when do we start learning language? When we are born. So we learn language naturally by listening people talk, by having parents, important adults interact with us. But then in school we learn it explicitly, so that language becomes catalyst to our thinking. So that's why it's never too early. Some people say even when you are pregnant, it is really good to sing to your baby, to talk to your baby, and then as soon as the child is born, language learning begins.
So that actually answers another question, which is how early is early, and when should caregivers start reading? So before they're born. How often should somebody be reading with their child?
Well, I would say whenever the child is curious and interested in being read to. I don't really like telling parents read every night or read every day for 15 minutes. What if the child is not developmentally able to sit for 15 minutes? What if they want to be read for 2 hours? There are some children who want to do that. What if they want to read the same book 28 times in a row. That's all okay.
Because
So,
it's reading.
Because it's reading.
Okay. Is it valuable? So, I think I was schooled in the you need to read to your child every day. You get home from school,
Well,
you
and
sit
you
them
do,
down.
ideally.
Okay. But is it valuable to have a dedicated space, place, or time? Is that useful, or can?
Absolutely, it is absolutely useful. However, in my opinion, what is even more useful is to have a relationship, to learn to associate reading with warmth and connection and bonding between adult and the child. And you know, if you have such wonderful space here, I am fully now determined to clean up my office on Monday. You have fantastic reading room, and that is so important, and that is brilliant. But you know, if we would only send that message out that it's important to have beautiful, dedicated space. Well, parents who are in poverty, who may live in a cluttered space, may be really discouraged about reading. But they can still be wonderful literacy guides for their children if they create the environment of warmth and fun and playfulness that the child associates with reading.
Okay. So I have a question about the difference between boys and girls.
Okay.
So, according to my family, I used to eat books. I loved reading, but I have two brothers. Could not get them to read until they were probably nearly adults. Are there tips and tricks to get boys to read, or anybody that's not interested? Because I have definitely seen, and I don't know if people here witnessed it, if you've got a boy and a girl, that there definitely appears to be a bit of a different desire between boys and girls. So any thoughts on that? Lots, okay.
So I have a problem when we are talking about boys as you know, group that struggles with attention, with reading, with motivation. I think we struggle when I say we. I believe we may struggle engaging boys.
Yeah.
We may struggle recognizing that they develop a bit differently than girls, that just developmentally they are not always to sit still at the age of 2 and be mesmerized by stories. I think we need to give boys more choice in what they are reading. They may be interested in, when they are in preschool, in books about cars and trucks and books about with rambunctious characters.
Captain Underpants.
Yes, with you know, like farting and we undermine a bit their motivation to read. And if you are learning anything, there are 3 things that you need to have in place. You need to have motivation. You need to achieve accuracy. So that's what your daughter is doing in grade 1. And then the 3rd stage is you need to acquire reading or anything else needs to become automatic or fluent. So we kind of mess up boys if we are not keeping in mind that we do need to work on their motivation and not just expectations that are generalized.
So, am I right in saying that any reading is good reading? And what I mean by that is, so my son didn't necessarily like reading, but we really like being outside. So if I could get him to read road signs, that was better than not reading. So is, you know, non-traditional reading, so maps, road signs, things out in the community, is that still valuable?
That is very valuable.
Okay.
In fact, it is necessary to tickle the curiosity. If you are outside and you become curious about something that you are seeing, observing, or doing, that builds the foundation for you to maybe become motivated to pick up a book that you will want to read when you are ready and when there is an adult willing to play with you, engage you, have fun.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have 4-year-old twins and boy girl, of course. So, but again, in terms of reading, like, is it beneficial at all to read kind of the same books for say a couple times or days in a row or whenever that might be, and then switch to something new, or just like a variety every single day, something different? Like, does that matter at all, or just like reading's reading whatever they want to read? Or like there's certain times, like even like this, the circle of caring and sharing, like I would want to read this to them, but they might want to read the hockey book kind of thing. Like selfishly I wanted them to read to them like being kind and caring and, you know, things about emotions and learning, but they might just want whatever. Should I just go with whatever they're feeling at the time and kind of mix in some things, or variety, or try to be more consistent, like a couple days? Like, any thoughts?
Absolutely, you should go with their interest, in my opinion.
Go with what, sorry?
With their interest, with what they want.
Okay.
And don't worry about, you know, a tip read. You need to read books about emotions at the age of 3. We all become interested in exploring our emotions when we are ready, and we need to. As adults, if we feel anxious, if we feel that we need to explore our anything, resilience, positive thinking, we all be inclined to pick a book. So the same is with children. I would always go with their interest, and you gave me a perfect excuse to tell you about one of the programs that we have at CanLearn that involves reading the same book over and over again. The program is called Share the Magic.
What was the program, sir?
Share the Magic, and it's well, I had a nice surprise this morning because one of our volunteers from the program, Gwen, actually wanted to come and listen to this. So Gwen, maybe you can just so that we make this a conversation rather than.
So what's
So maybe tell us about the program and about reading the same book over and over
Sure.
again.
So Share the Magic, we go into daycares and we visit them 5 times with a focus book, and we read that book every single time we come. And by the end of the 5 times, most of them have memorized the book because it's an easy book to memorize, and then they get a copy and take it home and get to read it to their families. It's a fabulous program, and yeah, we have a few volunteers that devote their time to go and read to children.
So we are not trying to get children to memorize the words. Like, that's actually not a good idea, especially for school age. We want children to break the code when they are in school. When they are in preschool, we want them to fall in love with the book. So on week 1, our fantastic volunteers will read the book, and then on week 2 they will tell the story using felt board, and on week 3 they will make characters out of cereal boxes, and with memorization happens because they fall in love with the book, and then they go home, take the book, and then they drive parents crazy, making them read the book every day. But that's good for them, that they are falling in love with stories, and they are kind of experiencing the story in a different way every time. And I know that I think you work with the daycare, and I know that you probably do the same type of building love for stories through stretching. So,
How much does literacy feature in the daycare at We Wild Ones and stories? Because you have a very different type of daycare, right? But is literacy a part?
Yeah, I would say it's a really huge focus at We Wild Ones. We have books everywhere,
Yeah.
so that's a big part of it. Kids are reading all the time at the age that they can. So yeah, I wrote it down because I'm like, I should bring that into the daycare.
No. Well, and also we must think about the fact that there are daycares in Calgary like yours. That sounds wonderful. And then there are daycares with very few books. And sometimes with staff who are learning about reading in English and learning the language themselves. So our program actually, we want to share ideas for you. It would be obviously supplemental, you are already doing it. But with some other day homes, daycares, it is really showing caregivers who have many strengths and love for children, what they can do to build this.
It's interesting, another statistic that we have, and Ken, you might remember this more, but I believe 1 in 4 of our families, or 1 in 4 of our children, our littles, live in homes that have no books.
Yeah.
And so the physically owning a book and buying a book is a dying art.
So that's why one of the strategies within our literacy strategy is, you might have noticed as you walked in there was a bookshelf. Kids can take 1, they can take 6, they can take 20 books. So I was leaving the other day and there was a family of 5 people, mom or dad or guardian, and then 3 kids. And the kids were just staring at the bookshelf. And I said, take as many as you want. And they looked at me like I had 3 heads because they'd never heard that before. And then they all walked out with 5 or 6 books. But the best part was the dad turned to me and said, can I take 1? I said, yes, you can. And it was fascinating because I don't know their family circumstance as well as our team would, but I suspect that we just tripled their book collection. And so we've got a great partnership with the Calgary Book Bank, which is one of the legacy assets of Calgary Reads. That charity sort of dissolved, but they gifted all their programs and assets to various organizations, including yours and ours, to continue that legacy. So we can constantly refresh our selection and our book collection around here with the intent of giving them away constantly. We didn't pay for these books, but we're gifting them to you to give to somebody else, and that stream constantly continues. And the way that's paid for is the big Calgary Reads book sale that happens every year. That's where the money goes. It actually goes towards literacy assets, especially early reading and early literacy assets. So buy books at that sale because they buy books to give for us to give them.
Yeah, literally anytime somebody comes in here, we're like, take a book with you. It's part of our DNA. So I have a couple more questions here, and then I was going to throw it open to everybody else. Do you have any tips or tricks on how to remind youth that spend their life doing this and texting, that they're going to actually need to be able to have literacy
It's not
skills?
literacy, I don't
Right.
want to answer that.
So how do we remind youth that they're going to need literacy? What can we do?
Let's think about that's an important question, and I'm actually really often thinking about this question. We Well, we actually need to think first about the question how I'm throwing the question at you. How has your reading changed over the past 10, 15 years? And the fact is that reading has changed. How much we read, why we read, how we read, that has all changed. So I'm now going to throw some research at you. I hope it will not be uninteresting. So this is from a very well-known neurocognitive scientist. Her name is Marianne Wolf, and she's really worried that how and if technology is going to change our brains permanently. So she found out that we all adults, we check our phone between 150 and 190 times a day. So she also found out that we as adults actually read more than ever before in history. We read between 50,000, 100,000 words a day, which is the length of a novel. However, how we read changed. So skimming and scanning has become the norm in reading. We don't have time to read at a deep level, to savor the book. We read for a different purpose, for information. So she says that that has a potential to really change our brains and affect our cognitive abilities, especially critical thinking, empathy, imagination, all skills that we need to be happy, to maintain our well-being. And there is also a research, that's not her research, but she cites it, that empathy in youth has fallen by 40% in the past 10 years. So if you think about bullying, disengagement, behavior problems, that may be the connection. So the question how to actually give them that message is to teenagers, is maybe to share a story like this, maybe to share a story about you and to ask that question that I mentioned at the beginning: what would your life be like now if you never learned to read? That's one strategy, to kind of terrify them, to tell them you are gonna all turn to zombies. With some interesting facts. Another way is to engage them. That's a better way, don't terrify them. Another way is to engage them to something that interests them and that is fun. So let me try to show you what I mean. So if I give you this and ask you, well, it's chocolate, they will want to eat chocolate hopefully, but there is a little heart there. And if you have a conversation about what we say, it always goes to language. And if you say, can you think of a person that you know who has a heart of gold? and you explain the meaning if they don't know it yet. And well, I did that with a teenager. I will share my proud moment, who actually thought of Keanu Reeves and was very proud of himself, because he knew that Keanu Reeves bought Harleys to supporting actors who did stunts. So guess what? Then I found a little story about him that we read together, and his interest was sparked. You can also give them a stone and put the heart and talk about the heart of stone and talk about life and emotions and talk about which superhero is more powerful, Batman or Superman. Ask them for their opinions. Argue with them. Arguing is so fun. Teenagers love it. That's the best I can do.
No, I think I heard arguing and terrorize them, so that was...
I know, but I do believe in trying to engage them through fun and something that interests them.
I mean, that's interesting that you said that, because the thing that stuck out to me, was the drop in empathy due to less reading, which I found that to be kind of interesting, and I wanted to learn more about that. But like you just explained it perfectly, how there's a connection there between literacy and empathy. It's creating connections through reading and story.
Okay. Building on what you said, and thank you very much. This is a complicated thing to explain, so when somebody says you explained it well,
No, it
But
clicked.
can
It
you-
definitely clicked when you said that.
Can I ask you to think about the first book that you read when you felt empathy? That's a cool question.
That is.
Anyone?
It's gotta be that, like, what's that Love You Forever book? The one where the
Huh?
baby and the mom?
Well,
I
I
used to
mean,
read
it
that with
can
my
be.
mom, and she would always tear up every time she
It
read
can
it.
be like
Yeah.
empathy towards people who aged and who were moms and had a life story, or the Giving Tree.
Yeah.
Or if they're older, like for me, like I do, you have a clear memory when I was growing up, the Diary of Anne Frank. When I read that, I was sobbing and thinking about the book for days. So if we replace those, sadness, empathy, emotions, are sometimes overwhelming, but it's important for us to process them. And if we abandon reading I Love You Forever and the Giving Tree and only read Facebook and memes, how are we going to process those emotions, and how is that going to impact our overall mental well-being? That is what Marianne Wolf and her research helped me understand. So I will recommend you a book. The book is called Reader Come Home. And
So one more time,
a Reader Come Home.
Reader Come Home.
It's interesting because when we meet with our children and youth when they first come into our programs, we ask them a few set questions, and I know that I think between 60 and 70% of our children and youth identify that they're being bullied.
Mm-hmm. Connection.
Right? And so you sort of look at that. Thank you. Did anybody else have any questions?
I wanted to ask again about, like, you kind of mentioned a little bit about memorizing words versus reading words. So, like, yeah, a big part of the curriculum in that grade 1 is like actually memorizing this.
No,
sheet of words. That's how they're learning.
It
They're-
shouldn't be.
Yeah. I find what's happening is that she will remember a sheet of words, like there's say 12 words on one sheet, right? She'll do really great with that. She gets quizzed once a week and stuff like that. She does great. But then as we progress, she's like, I've forgotten what happened on page 3. I'm on page, 9 now. You know what I mean? So, she's read these words. She memorized them when it was time for her to like present that. But as she's progressed, she's forgotten those words. So,
Okay.
but I've been told that like memorization is part of learning how to.
By who?
Her teacher.
Okay, this is getting fun.
Yeah, now we're getting.
Oh, I know.
This is awesome. I think is some of it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it some of it having the words in context?
No.
It's not.
No.
It's not that either. See, that's what I was.
The most important handout you will ever see.
So what does this mean?
So we talked about language. All this conversation was about language processing, feelings, thoughts through language. So language plus decoding. Children should not be memorizing words ever. They should have evidence-based, targeted instruction in decoding words. Listening, understanding that letters are pictures of sounds, and we look at letters and we make a connection, and that's how we read. We don't memorize. Can I terrify you a little bit?
Bring it on.
We actually just got a sound sheet. Like, what are we at now? Like halfway through the school
Wow.
year, I just got the sound sheet.
But I love that letters are pictures of sounds.
Yeah.
That's
So-
And that's what it is. It's like, what's the
Yeah.
what's the double O sound? And it's a picture of like, I don't know.
So
Whatever,
you have probably all heard about the science of reading movement and approach to reading instruction. At the core, there are many components. I don't want to keep you here till Sunday, but the core element of the science of reading instruction is to help children make connection between sounds in language, phonemes, and letters to decode. Well, to terrify you, like if whoever learns to read only by memorizing, that's a really dangerous thing, can only get to grade 4 level. And why? Because our computers run out of memory, and then they start being slow. Our brains also run out of memory, and then we cannot get past grade 4, and the reading development is stunted. So my advice for children in early grade is to really make sure that they are not memorizing. There are words in English that are irregular. However, even those don't have to be memorized. Only the irregular piece of the word be memorized, but the rest we listen for the sound.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is like sounding out the words and
Yeah.
breaking the word down into pieces of sounds.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, that's how I've been trying to teach her how to do it, right?
Good for you. You're doing a good job.
Try.
So, I now actually work directly with adult learners who have never learned to read. My biggest challenge or our biggest barrier to overcome is to unlearn memorizing and get them to listen to the sounds. Yes.
What do you do when you have a language like Chinese though? Chinese, you cannot sound it out, you have to memorize it.
Well, yes, but Chinese is not a phonetic language, it is visual language, so I totally recognize that. And Chinese has, you know, if you think about 44 sounds that make up all the words, but Chinese has how many characters? 5,000?
Yeah, you need like
And it's
2,000
visual.
to be able to-
Yeah, yes, yeah. So that goes into linguistics and the fact that languages are different.
That's actually a really good segue. Do you have any advice on how our mentors can help if English is one of the learning languages in a home, so not a first language at home? How can they help children who have multiple languages at home to read?
Well, number one, they can encourage, and I hope they do, children to keep their first language and to speak their first language with their families. That is also an interesting cause of reading difficulties. So we talk about English literacy and English reading, and then families start speaking English at home. But if you come and live in English and you learn English as an adult, your vocabulary will be limited, and you will speak a very impoverished version of language, which will affect actually your relationship and communication with your child. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
What they can do while spending time with them is build that language foundation, fun, read what you're doing, like look how fun this place is, and you're giving books, and so their work is really to set the foundation for children so that they are ready to benefit from decoding and reading instruction. I wouldn't put it on parents or mentors or ordinary people to provide reading intervention. But we need to help teachers and create environment when children come ready to school so that they can benefit from what they're doing. And that is a huge challenge for teachers. I will clarify you a little bit more. So a child, well, if you're a teacher only, so a child who grows up in a home where English is the first and primary language starts kindergarten with about 10,000 words in their in English. Now, the child who grows up in a home where parents speak English is the first language, but the home is quiet. There are no books, there is no reading, like everybody stares at their tablet, comes to school with 5,000 words in their oral vocabulary. Well, then we have ESL children who come with a few words or no words. So imagine like what the teacher needs to do, like to work with all those different levels. So what we need to do as community is help even that stage so the teachers can actually well implement effective instruction without having to grapple with these different levels and circumstances.
It's complex.
Yes.
And that doesn't even mention the behavioral stuff that's happening in schools right now too.
Absolutely. Why is behavior stuff happening?
I would love to know. My daughter's having a hard time in
Okay,
her classroom. and
maybe
her
we are,
teacher-
We have
Just-
beer.
I have a
That's okay.
theory.
Yeah.
I have a theory. Well, you will forgive me. I connect all issues in the society to reading, but so I just shared this little tidbit. So the thing is, like, children are very good at a very young age figuring out that they are behind, that they are not doing as well with learning as their peers. So when you do that, like, what happens? Like, the child will either withdraw and become very introvert and shy. And I mean, I don't know. There seems to be like increase in a really freaky diagnosis like selective mutism. Or the child can externalize emotions and misbehave. And if we don't address the underlying cause, which is reading at school or language, I mean, toddler, when they cannot articulate like what's wrong, they will throw a fit. But then they will learn the language and their behavior will become better. If you are at school and you are stuck with reading, you are not making progress, your behavior will become worse and worse and worse. That's my theory.
That's an interesting theory. Many years ago I used to work in a bank, and I was a bank teller, and people would come, when people still use bank teller, people would come up, and I can actually picture it. Even sitting here, there was 3 gentlemen, totally unrelated to each other, but 3 gentlemen that were always kind of problematic customers. They were sort of bossy and kind of rude, but every one of those 3 signed their deposit slip, remember those? With an X. And I just put that together now.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was part of it.
So
that was absolutely part of it.
Wow.
So it's like a frustration in the ability
Yes, you
of
cannot.
articulating.
Yeah, you feel it's a kind of similar frustration if you would go to China and you kind of learn some Cantonese here, and then you come to China and you realize, oh, I know all these words, but I cannot understand anybody, and I cannot say what I need to. I cannot express what I need or what I would like to express. So it's that kind of a feeling, but just permanent. Like you are in school for a full day every day, and you are in a fog, and that affects your emotions and yeah, behavior. Yes.
I guess kind of related to topic. So what if like you have a kid who's in like let's say grade 5, but their reading level is grade 1. So what do you do? What do parents do? What do teachers do to help? And now they're frustrated, right? Like it's been years where they're behind. So what do you do with this?
So are you asking that question as a parent or as a teacher?
Maybe as a parent, and well, I'm a mentor.
Okay.
But also just in general, like when you see these types of situations, how do you help them not like catch up or like develop other mechanisms to deal with that, the challenge that they're facing?
Okay. So as a parent, well, you need to advocate for your child at school, and you need to well, explain to the teachers and the school that the child needs targeted intervention, and that the child has the right to targeted intervention. But as a mentor, because this is not your child you're talking about, what you can do is, well, there are 2 things. You can communicate with the parent and maybe have a conversation about the importance of advocacy. Maybe connect them with resources that you know that can help the child, like with developing reading skills. But with the child, I don't know exactly how mentorship works. Are you working only with the child, or you sometimes talk to the parents? With the child, you have a very important role of painting a picture that the child, yeah, they are struggling with reading, but they have strengths. They are still beautiful, valuable, kind. They have good heart, and you can read with them and build that language foundation. But if a child in grade 5 is struggling with this part, decoding, they need help. Like they need targeted reading intervention. CanLearn is a place that can help, like as a resource. Yes.
My question's actually for Sarah, because I think it builds on what is weread.ca and how much does it cost?
WeRead.ca is an amazing online tool that we have that is free, and it helps to teach anybody that has a sphere of influence over a child, so a parent, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, godparent, big brother, big sister, how to instill a love of reading in children. So it doesn't teach you how to teach a child how to read, it teaches you how to share the love of literacy and the language and the decoding. And it's free, and it's online, and we host it.
Yeah.
So that was a
It
great
brings the
segue.
book to life. It gives you strategies on how to make characters come to life. There's videos and all these things that'll show you. And it only takes like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's not a long
And then it gives you a lifetime of when you've got this book in front of you, what you can do, what questions you can ask, what sort of frame you can put on the reading experience. We use it as a tool for reading role modeling, for mentors particularly, but not exclusively. And once again, it costs nothing, and we, thousands of people have taken it already, and we want millions because it exists, and it's it's about love of reading and inspiration.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to have a memory of me as somebody terrifying you with eyes. So based on what you said, I will share this. So, 50% of children will actually learn to read easily with support from the library, from WeRead, based on just language. However, 40% will need explicit reading instruction. And then 10%, that is an estimated stat about the number of children who have learning disabilities or ADHD. So you will not need, not everybody, your twins may not need decoding, it may unravel and just come together reading and play and joyful learning. The fact that some kids need decoding instruction doesn't mean that they are less smart. That it means that they are they have a different way of learning. They are still my two nephews who grew up in the same family with the same number of books, with me constantly not worrying, but engaging them in reading. One just showed up one day and read Dr. Seuss at the age of 5. The other needed, in grade 1 around Christmas, help, like with decoding, and then they are both fine now. They are avid readers and did well at school, and they're still in school. So children are different. Don't be worried about dark future of reading of the world. If we get it right, if we work together, schools, community, organizations like CanLearn, like you, we all have a little play to, a little but significant role to play. Also, don't worry about technology too much if we are all doing our part. Think about it as bilingualism. There are people who are completely bilingual and switch from French to English, maybe in China from Mandarin to Cantonese. Like people just, so we can do AI and technology and we can still be readers. It's not meant to replace technology, AI, texting is not meant to replace reading, but to give us, to make us more awesome as society, as people. So
did anybody
that's
else?
my rant about that.
There we go. No, that's great. Did anybody else have any questions? Thoughts? Perfect. So what I'm hearing is it's about language.
And decoding.
Okay, okay, we've got that, and a little bit of a side of terror.
For parents, yeah, for parents, for people who work in the community with children, supporting them, it is about language.
Okay, so that's what we
Mostly.
need.
And then this decoding part is not rocket science. There is language.
So if one of our mentors, a parent, somebody is having some struggles with helping their children, where would you recommend they look for help?
Of course, CanLearn.
Okay.
Oh, I'm joking. Like a lot of people actually do great work. Depending on what it is, they can find help here. They can help. So students from Montreal University are doing fantastic work in the decoding portion of it. Library is a fantastic place. And you know, honestly, like CanLearn is just one of the places. And if you all work together, our children should be fine.
One of the things we're part of, Big Brothers Big Sisters is a trustee in an emerging network called the Early Literacy Network. And it focuses on young people up to grade 3, but not exclusively. We started with a group of 6 or 7 organizations that's wanted to build this network. And interestingly, only a couple of them were actually literacy organizations.
Mm-hmm.
There's, Big Brothers Big Sisters is not a literacy organization, but we've infused that into our programming. And now the network, we had a gathering just a little while ago at Mount Royal University. There were 45 different groups in the room that are starting to get curious about this network. And it was sports organizations, and it was the fire department was there. Like, it was a really interesting mix of organizations that understand. The Business Council of Alberta is one of the lead trustees on this. The Business Council is made up of the 125 largest companies' CEOs in the province, oil and gas, aerospace, whatever. And they're in the room because they understand that literacy early can actually change the workforce here in Alberta in a positive way. So more to come. We don't even have a website yet. We're just kind of making it all happen. But there is an early literacy network that's forming, and that will be a part of that. You, through your connection with Big Brothers Big Sisters, will benefit from. So.
And I believe that is such a great idea to infuse literacy in everything. Literacy is not a separate issue from learning in general, from mental health, from addressing poverty, from any social issue. So we need to work together as community and just be aware of our role that we play from daycares, community organizations, organizations that are specifically focused on learning and attention and learning difficulties, to volunteers, mentors. So.
Perfect. Thank you. Hopefully everybody's learned a little something new today, which is useful. Bit of housekeeping for you all. There is jars of honey that you can all take home with you, given to us by one of our supporters. There are books that you can take home. You can also trade them, switch them around with people. We have one ask of you, which is there is a little survey on your chairs. If you could do those before you leave, just to help us gauge how we're doing with these, that would be wonderful. And really the last thing for me is just to thank Nada for sharing your expertise. So thank you for giving up your Saturday morning and
You're very welcome. And thank you for being engaged. And I forgot to put this on your chair, but one last thing that I want to share with you, along with the most important handout that you will ever receive. My favorite educator that has ever lived is called Paulo Freire, and he is from Brazil, and he unfortunately is not with us again, but he coined this beautiful group of words that always stay with me. He says that when it comes to learning and reading, it is all about reading the word and reading the world, which translates to language. So reading the world, reading enables us to live in this world and be well in this world. And reading the word is the tool that we all have developed, and we need to help our children develop it. So, to remember reading the word and reading the world, I actually have a stress ball for each one of you. Not to be stressed, be optimistic and positive. Our world is funky right now, and there are all these tools and things happening, and AI is evolving, but we will be okay, and kids will be okay. Work together. Anyway, I will just pass those.
Did you learn something?
That's perfect.
You're
Yeah.
If anybody else has trees like
You've got one each to take home.
Exactly, yeah.
let me know.
Yes.
Yeah, we learned that lesson early.
Look at that, yeah, exactly the right number for it.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
welcome. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
That's cool. We'll go with the eyes.
So Nada, I'm just gonna
I know, I can't read it, but it's cool.
just quickly give you these.
Oh my God, thank you.
No, thank you. And just a little card.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Oh, we're getting a little closer together. Excellent. Thank you.
Hey, so much.
All right. Which book did you get, or which book did you want? Oh.
I read for an hour before I came in.
Oh,
I
wow.
read for an hour. Organized the
Have a couple of months. Did a slightly crazy race and now I'm recovering.